Passem ara a l'última part de la sessió del matí, amb la taula rodona o la conferència inicial de la Sana Jafri. Deixeu-me dir només que l'experiència que avui us presentem és una experiència concreta, però en realitat forma part d'una estratègia més global, que és l'estratègia d'una ciutat, la ciutat de Chicago, que fa molts anys que inverteix molts esforços i molta intel·ligència en articular un ecosistema d'aprenentatge. Un ecosistema d'aprenentatge, a més, orientat a proveir i a garantir la igualtat d'oportunitats educatives per tot l'alumnat. Per tant, aquests ecosistemes d'aprenentatge tenen un eix d'equitat que ha anat sortint recurrentment, però que és molt important i que l'experiència que avui us portem també el té. I per què hem decidit portar-vos una experiència internacional o de fora? La primera raó, i és molt important, és perquè les inquietuds al darrere de 360 i que compartim amb vosaltres són inquietuds que no són estrictament locals, són inquietuds que són globals, que en definitiva les preguntes que nosaltres ens fem, els canvis que volem generar, són preguntes i canvis que simultàniament s'estan produint en molts llocs del món, perquè finalment els reptes són els mateixos. Quina ha de ser l'educació del futur i el futur de l'educació són preguntes que s'estan produint al mateix temps a llocs molt diferents i s'estan produint experiments molt interessants del que nosaltres també en formem part. I pensem que és important no només buscar quines són aquestes experiències internacionals, sinó també entrar en diàleg amb elles, perquè les experiències que s'estan donant al nostre context també poden il·luminar realitats en altres llocs. Aquesta és la primera raó. Les nostres inquietuds són inquietuds que globalment s'estan produint en altres llocs del món. No és una dèria local, sinó que té a veure amb els reptes de futur de l'educació. La segona raó, que és important, és perquè l'experiència que avui us portem exemplifica conceptes que a vegades són una mica vagues, com ecosistemes d'aprenentatge, aprenentatge connectats, i veure com això s'encarna o es concreta en projectes. Pensem que és molt il·luminador, no són només conceptes teòrics o abstraccions, sinó que tenen concrecions reals, solucions reals. I això em porta a la tercera raó, i la tercera raó és que hi ha l'experiència que avui us portem, el Chicago Learning Exchange, ha trobat algunes, no algunes respostes, però algunes solucions. Hi ha idees, hi ha propostes, hi ha vehicles que permeten accelerar la concreció de la visió que compartim en Educació 360. I pensem que és important veure quins són aquestes solucions o de quina manera han intentat resoldre alguns dels problemes que tenim plantejats, no tant per copiar-los necessàriament, o potser sí, però sobretot per inspirar-nos, per agafar idees, etc. Perquè hi ha algunes de les propostes que jo crec, com veureu, que marquen una mica el camí a fer en el futur. De fet, moltes de les coses que avui us explicarà la Sana ressonen en algunes de les preguntes que sorgien en els grups de treball, què és un educador 360 i com es forma i es capacita un educador 360. Aquesta és una pregunta bastant rellevant. Us presento, doncs, la Sana molt ràpidament. És responsable de programes al Chicago Learning Exchange, és màster en polítiques públiques i de l'administració i tot i que inicialment tenia un interès particular en polítiques de petita infància, a l'organització on està ara treballen sobretot amb adolescents i joves, que em consta que molts de vosaltres també ho feu. La Chicago Learning Exchange té com a missió inspirar i recolzar la innovació per fer que aquells que acompanyen els nois i noies i els propis nois i noies treballin en la reducció de les desigualtats educatives. Té una missió potent d'innovar per a reduir les desigualtats, per apoderar els joves, per donar-los veu, etc. Treballen en el marc del que s'anomena Connected Learning o aprenentatge connectat, que la Sana us explicarà una mica els seus principis, i intenten que les organitzacions a les quals acompanyen apliquin aquests principis en el disseny de les seves intervencions d'aprenentatge. Són també, aquesta organització, responsables d'empènyer l'estratègia d'una iniciativa molt interessant als Estats Units, que és la Learning, LRNG, que podeu buscar a internet, de la qual formen part ciutats com Detroit, Filadèlfia, Orlando, en el que el que intenten és construir itineraris d'aprenentatge pels nois i noies de les ciutats, articulant tota l'oferta disponible. Una idea bastant propera a la que nosaltres també volem desenvolupar, tots els que estem aquí. La Sana ha col·laborat amb la MacArthur Foundation i la Mozilla Foundation, que són dues institucions fortes en el desenvolupament d'una cultura de col·laboració i una cultura que en diuen open en el món educatiu. Ella es defineix a si mateixa com una connectora en sèrie d'idees i persones i aquesta és la feina que bàsicament fa a la Chicago Learning Exchange. Doncs, Sana, the floor is yours.
Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes.
Sí? Molt ràpid.
I'm Sana Jaffrey with the Chicago Learning Exchange, and I'm very pleased to be with you all from Chicago. It's wonderful to be in Barcelona. Today I'm going to tell you more about how in Chicago and why in Chicago for the past 9 years we have connected our education and workforce development systems into a dynamic ecosystem in order to inspire youth to be creative, connected, and curious, to be civically engaged, and to be prepared for the future of work and learning. Beyond this presentation, you can stay in touch with Chicago Learning Exchange, and we hope that you will be. You can visit us at chicagolx.org, follow us in real time at CLX Change and Hive Chicago Buzz, and you can follow me at Joffs31. If you do follow me, just a disclaimer, there will be non-education related tweets and perhaps some videos of funny cats. So, as you can tell from our name, our work is really grounded in our local context. We are, just some fun facts about Chicago, we are the third most populous city in the US, about 3 million people. And we love our Bulls, the Chicago Bulls basketball team, Michael Jordan, as you probably remember. Currently, right now, I'm glad to be in Barcelona with you because we're experiencing Arctic air. It's in the negatives. And as such, we stay warm with thick Chicago-style pizza. And these aren't just fun facts. They're connected to experiences for young people. So I'm going to start with the why before I get into the how. Our world is changing, as you know, for Educatio 360 and the work that you all do. Learners will enter a world that looks very different than any generation before us. This is a moment in time. Are we going to capture this moment to increase equity or further the divide? Are we going to capture this moment to move youth from surviving to thriving? Are we going to capture this moment to move our systems that are fragmented into a connected ecosystem? Similar to the questions that you've been exploring today, these are the questions that we think about daily. And as Chicago, are we going to turn this moment into a movement for lifelong learning? If you're with me, please stand. Look around, these are the people that are with you. One, we need to be reinvigorated and get our legs moving because we've been sitting, but look around, these are the people. We cannot do it alone. We have to be together. And at Chicago Learning Exchange, we know this is the why of what we do, and we have to do it together. So I'm going to share a little bit more about Chicago and share a deeper picture. I hope to also learn more about Barcelona. So Chicago is a global city of abundant opportunities, yet abundance is not equitably distributed, and learning opportunities are not connected. For some youth, they can imagine going to the Bulls basketball game. And for others, they cannot even imagine leaving their block. Equity, holistic education, and open education are the center of our work. And at Chicago Learning Exchange, we enact connected learning. We are on a mission to inspire and support digital age learners and leaders to close Chicago's opportunity gap. This is an opportunity gap is an enormous issue. No one organization can do it. So there has been much research done around the opportunity gap and popular press, and for our definition, the opportunity gap is too broad. So we've been a little bit more specific in defining our interventions and hope to be more precise in our interventions as a result. So one of the things that we think about is the awareness gap. Do youth know about the learning experiences being offered in their city? If they know about them, can they access them? Chicago is a big city. It's also a very segregated city. This is the most segregated city in the US. How can they go from one side of the city to the next side to access these? Attendance gap. So if they are in attendance, are they showing up? Do they feel like they're belonging? Another gap is engagement. Is the material engaging? Is it hands-on? Or is it kind of the traditional notion of education, which is passive consumption of knowledge? We would like to move the work to engaging hands-on rather than passive. So we know this work can't be done alone, and we are a hub for the growing community of educators and youth-focused organizations who join us and who are working to ensure all youth have access to the tools, opportunities, and necessary needs to thrive in the 21st century and flourish. We work with over 200 youth-serving organizations, city agencies, nonprofits, community-based organizations, and schools, such as the Chicago Public Library, museums. Together, we hope that learning is driven by a young person's interests, connected to, enhanced by technology, and connected to opportunity. And together, our vision is Chicago is a connected community where all learning counts. So I'll use this term connected learning throughout, so I want to ground our work in the context of what connected learning is. And it's a good reflection for myself as well for doing this work. Our systems, although it's different in terms of context in our cities, are set up in education pipelines. We think in terms, so elementary school to high school to post-secondary. But when you talk to people and you reflect on your own experience, there's actually a whole web of people and organizations and opportunities that have been supports for a young person, only some of which are connected to the education pipeline that we think of. And educators, parents, and administrators, researchers, we all play an integral role in a young person's life. And we will continue to, whether it's helping a young person explore their interests, to gain creativity, to prepare for university, or apply for a job. The connected learning approach suggests that youth need spaces to make their contributions and share their work, to be driven by interests rather than just what's told that they have to learn, to build expertise in areas that they find significant for themselves, between their interests, relationships, and opportunities. So in a connected age, this is the connected learning framework some of you may be familiar with. In a networked age, there is a bountiful opportunity of free and open resources. The internet has changed our opportunities. Our role as connection builders becomes even more critical. So learning needs to be interest-driven, peer-supported, and connected to opportunity, whether that's academic or vocational. And then the orange circles are kind of more around the connected learning design principles. So how do we enact connected learning? How do we make sure that learning is production-centered, openly networked, and things that are shared purpose so they can work across their learning environments? And I'm reminded of this quote by Malcolm Gladwell around connection. Connected learning for a connected world is more than just connection. It's powerful. Connectors are powerful people. They often give us opportunities often give us access to opportunities in worlds which we don't belong. How often is that true for a young person? They don't belong or don't feel like they belong in the world, so how are they going to learn? Connectors are crucial in that. And in the US at least, much of our work has been focused on what students know. So are they reading proficient, math, et cetera? These are essential, but what students know is also connected to who students know and what they're able to access. And the who is connected to the what. So what has emerged from our work for the past decade is this idea of social capital. So connected learning can help build a social capital of educators and the youth they serve. If we are going to increase the social capital of youth and the knowledge that they attain, we have to increase the social capital of the adults and parents. So I want you to take a moment to reflect on your own experience. So if you have a device, I know that we've already been doing this a little bit with Menti. In one word, identify how Educacio 360 has supported you in your connection to better serve youth. So the code is 578067, and you can go to mentee.com. And so just take a moment to do this and reflect on your own work. John Dewey, who's a US-based, so it's mentee.com. They're just switching to the Mentimeter. Mentee.com, and then it's, oh, sorry, 1 second. Yeah, 57, 80, and 60. And we'll just see the results in just a second. Is the word cloud coming? Is it working? Oh. Yeah, maybe refresh. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh. So some of the results are that it's provided a network, inspiration, opportunities, ideas, and equity to connect and transform and better serve our youth. I think we are all in this together. We'll switch back. Yeah. Thank you all for participating, for those that were able to. No, back to the slide deck, yeah. Just a second. So when Monica and I were talking about the work, she said, you know, can you go, the why of connected learning is easy to know, but how do you guys do the work? This is something that we're interested in. And, you know, there isn't necessarily a rule book of how to do connected learning. It's kind of more of a framework or a pedagogical approach. And so Chicago Learning Exchange has approached our work in this way. We have a network similar to this alliance, of professional learning network for educators, both the in-school and out-of-school time space. We offer grants and support, so we invest in innovation that the educators and organizations that are doing this work. We also have realized that learning happens in the in-school and out-of-school time space. How do we then better document that learning? We do that through learning badges and pathways, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. And actually, in May of this year, we're creating the citywide celebration to increase awareness and opportunities. It's called Remake Learning Days, which my colleague, I think Sunana mentioned that did. And this is a celebration that's going to happen across cities in the US, kind of a simultaneous event. So again, turning this idea of moments into a movement. And this is really geared towards parents. So our strategies and kind of what we do a lot, to be honest, similar to all of the work that you are doing. And we were having a tough time kind of communicating what is that we do and how we do it in all of these different ways. So we created a mnemonic. So CLX's approach is NICER. So network, ignite, champion, and equip research. So for the N to the network, we network educators mainly those who work with young people. And we're intentional about this because we realize that educators need an opportunity to enact connected learning and to network. We ignite innovations because organizations need support in the ecosystem, so we actually offer grants as a way to do this. And then championing. We know that this is a new area, so most of our work has fallen into the first two areas, network and ignite. We were actually known previously as the Hive Chicago Fund at the Chicago Community Trust, and then the Hive Chicago Learning Network at the Mozilla Foundation. So we were two separate organizations, and most of our work fell into the network and ignite categories. But as we grew over the past 9 years, we've added different areas, and the work of championing has been something that is new to us, and I think there's a lot of things that we can learn from you all in Barcelona and the work that you have been doing around advocacy. So championing is something that we're doing, and it's really geared towards parents. So a young person who is who will be hopefully in a young person's life for the longest, their parents. They will be their longest teacher. How do we engage parents in understanding that interest-driven learning opportunities and hands-on learning opportunities are essential for their child to succeed and be thriving in the future? And then equip. So digital badges is a new kind of thing that has been emerging in the US and other places, and open badge, kind of this open badge community. This is really geared towards our work around workforce development and engaging young people in vocational opportunities as well. And we have educators at the table, employers, and our city. And then research. You know, we don't have a researcher on staff. We often work with contractors, but you know, we're really excited. In last year, we commissioned the City of Chicago, and I think it's the first report of its kind for any city to understand the landscape of digital learning opportunities for our city so we can measure growth. And we're also doing more work around creating a connected learning guide, which we hope to have influence the field of connected learning at large. So I'll delve deeper. We don't have time to go into all of the nicer strategies, but this is our community. So we offer meetups. We offer monthly meetups. So convenings like this, but monthly, every third Thursday of the month. We have professional development opportunities for educators. And what I want to kind of reiterate is that networks are different than organizations. And to provide a little background, networks are a set of relationships. These ties can be among individuals, peoples, or organizations. And network theory can be found in many areas like computer science, the World Wide Web, sociology, and in networks, intricate nodes that are separate, maybe doing similar work, but when they come together, they can be strong, and they can be intentionally brought together to meet shared goals and shared vision. And when these networks connect, they can form ties. And what's nice about network structure is that it's usually bottom up. So it's really about the grassroots educators that are working with young people. Unlike organizational leadership, which is all about the presidents or the CEOs. It's distributed, bottom up, and relational. It also lends itself to be low cost and nimble and ultimately scalable. It can transcend cities and regions and schools and networks. So at our meetups, we have monthly meetups every third Thursday of the month, where educators get opportunities to network, to mingle, to experiment and tinker, to work on shared problems and issues. So there are issues that are, in fact, the southwest side of Chicago that are also issues in the north side of the city. How do we come together to solve these issues across our area? So we provide space and time similar to the connected learning model that educators. We also offer professional development to educators. So this is an actual experience from one of our educators offering a professional development. So exchanging knowledge and resources is essential and is part of our name and our DNA. And utilizing the connected learning design principles is what we do to prepare youth for the future. So one of the challenges, I think often when people give presentations, they don't talk about the challenges. And I think one of the challenges that we've experienced and we haven't been able to necessarily overcome is how do we measure the impact and the network of the growth? That's something that we're trying to explore right now. There are a lot of tools for exploring network theory, but we haven't been able to crack that nut fully. So I just want to reiterate that strong social networks can be key to youth development. MacArthur Foundation, who has been one of our key investors in this work for over a decade, has researched this and has found that youth that have networks or are tied to networks have stronger outcomes. They have greater social capital, they have greater knowledge, they have greater opportunity. So I'm going to stop talking and let you hear this work from our esteemed colleague, Amaris, who is one of our network members, if this works. So this is Amaris. She's one of our network members. She's been with our community for a very long time, and she's expanded her work with us for many years.
I oversee the science career continuum at Chicago Botanic Garden. So we have programming that starts as early as middle school, and we're really working on hands-on inquiry in environmental science. And our ultimate goal is to help diversify the STEM and environmental fields. What I'm most passionate about in working with Hive is the access and equity and inclusion of youth of color from Chicago in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And I'm able to do only a certain amount of things with the capacity of my own institution and organization and my own programming. But when I'm connected to a larger network of educators, I learn from them, they learn from me, we're sharing, but I know that what we're doing as this network is impacting more youth than I'm able to serve at my institution. I think that, STEM and STEAM and now how we connect with, social justice and all these other civic engagement topics, it is something that's much more relevant to youth, of meeting them where they're at. And that's another way that I'm able to kind of leverage and use Hive for that, because maybe their first connection is fashion and arts, and then they realize that there's more opportunities and pathways because of the Hive network. They realize that there's all these other options for them. I had this really great story of one student in particular. She's all about, the flowers, and she likes sketching them. She really liked nature. There was this opportunity. It was a sustainability app challenge, and Hive took that project and turned it into a bigger scale project, and my student Marina was able to continue working on that project.
It has produced a community-driven web app called Ride With Me that helps teens overcome significant transportation barriers. If you want to learn more about that, talk to MLN staff member Robert Friedman and a young woman sitting next to him who represents a new generation of leaders in this work, high school senior Marina Malone. Give her some love.
Marina was able to go to Mozilla Festival through Hive, so they flew her out, and she's continued working on that project, and now she's majoring in computer engineering. So I would say that, when I see a story like that in one of my students, I think that that's my biggest passion and voice of Hive. It's really the students and what happens in their lives.
So a lot of our work has started with a question. A lot of this work is new, as you all kind of are experiencing this. We don't have all the answers, but we kind of continue to iterate, test, try. And one of the things that we kind of continue to think about is experiences like Marina's. How do we increase opportunities for Marina and all the other youth in Chicago? And one of the things that we realize is that learning, as we all know, happens everywhere. In 2013, we asked that question: how do we make learning that is often invisible, so learning that happens in the out-of-school time space or online or other places on the job, how do we make that learning more visible? It's happening, but young people don't get a grade for kind of the experiences that they are doing. So this is what kind of led us to digital badges and pathways. So digital badges have been around since I think 2005. They've been around before that as analog versions. You know, in the US, there's the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts that are badges for service learning opportunities. But the digital nature kind of provided also an opportunity for us to take that learning and capture it. So a digital badge is it's a credential, it's an alternative credential. And we work with the One Summer Chicago program, which is a city program that's the second largest youth employment program in the country. And so what we do is we provide digital badges and, for young people for the workforce opportunities that they are experiencing. What we do actually is that we train the educators that work with young people. So this is our strategy in relation to equip. So we work with One Summer Chicago, but CLX is a LRNG city. So LRNG is a digital learning platform that was started by Connie Yowell, who is the previous director of education at MacArthur Foundation. And the big idea was that we could create this learning infrastructure, this digital platform to connect our fragmented systems. And CLX is the organization that operates LRNG, and it's called LRNG Shy. It's a tool that can enable learning that happens online, on your phone, anywhere, anytime. So digital badges are one portion of digital learning. How do we make that learning and that skill representative? What's different about a digital badge versus an analog badge is that digital badges can have metadata. So when you click into that digital badge, there's resources. So how many of you have a resume? Resume? Yeah. How many people have maybe embellished a little bit on their resume? So these are actually more true representations. So if an employer or a transcript, you could click and to see what a young person did. So if you said, I'm strong in writing, you could see the writing sample by clicking on the digital badge to see what they're. If you say you're an amazing photographer, you could see the portfolio of opportunities. And over time, young people can have multiple badges in whatever they're interested in, whether that's photography, environmental issues, arts, social justice, etc. Another thing that we have done in Chicago is create a digital learning, another digital learning platform called Chicago City of Learning, which LRNG is modeled after. So you are familiar with Yelp? No? Yelp? So Yelp is an app or a resource that you can use to find restaurants. Okay? So in Barcelona, I came here yesterday and I looked, where can I eat? I went to Yelp, and so I'm looking for Chinese. I went to Yelp and said, okay, this is where the list of opportunities. Chicago City of Learning is the same idea, but for learning. So it's the Yelp of learning. So for example, if you had a young person that was interested in coding, where would you go to find that information? It's hard to find unless you're very much in the know. Chicago City of Learning seeks to catalog and create an opportunity, a database of all the learning opportunities in the city of Chicago. This is no easy task because there are thousands, literally. But our colleagues, Dr. Nicole Pinkard, Akila Lee, Dr. Sybil Madison Boyd are the pioneers of this work and have created this digital platform that's being used in Chicago and in other cities as well. So you have all these experiences and opportunities and badges. Where does it go to? So in the in-school space, we have a transcript. In the out-of-school time space, we've used these digital learning platforms like LRNG and Chicago City of Learning to kind of create a passport or a portfolio of all the learning opportunities for a young person. So you can showcase, hey, I'm really great at this one thing, or I'm working on this other thing. And so a parent could see that, an educator, every youth in the city of Chicago that are enrolled in Chicago Public Schools has a Chicago City of Learning platform or account. So all of these opportunities are documented in this portfolio. And this work we are doing in Chicago is for a connected learning, connected learning for a connected world. It hasn't been easy, I'm going to be honest. There are a lot of iterations and opportunities and questions that have supported our work. And so I'll share some lessons learned over the past 9 years. So if you think of this work, it's still relatively new in the scheme of education. Like Rome or Barcelona, this work was not built in a day, and nor will we solve these problems in a day. We hope that there are several questions and stages that will continue to drive our work, and we will stay committed to our values and our roots. So open experimentation, collaboration, and open innovation at the intersection of youth development, equity, and technology. In order for young people to have connected learning experiences, educators that work with young people need to be rejuvenated. They need opportunities to have connected learning experiences. And what we have found from that research is the why is that it matters because it builds the social capital of educators, youth that need it the most. When thinking about Barcelona's infrastructure, think about data as a point that is important. How do you build the data infrastructure to capture all of the learning that's happening anytime, anywhere? And most importantly, keep youth interests at the center. I'll take a term from Ben Kirshner, who's a professor, and think about, when we think about interest-driven learning, we often only think about, fashion or music or things that young people are interested in. Those are all valid. How do we acknowledge those opportunities as valid and redirect and continue to explore their passions so that they can turn passions to purpose? And Ben says that interests are not just things that are in a young person's interests, or are not just interests, but are things that are in a young person's interests. So social justice issues around segregation, climate change, et cetera. How do we make those interests, how do we cultivate those interests and keep youth at the center? So I hope that today and throughout we will stay connected and know that you are not alone in this work. We are all in a global community for connected learning. And I look forward to learning more about your work and Barcelona. So Dewey says that we don't just learn from learning by doing, we learn from reflecting on doing. So I hope to take a second, again, one more last Mentimeter to kind of reflect on your own experience. What resonates about our shared work? So if you could, again, take out your phone and go to menti.com. Oh, okay. So Menti is not working right now. So I just want you to think yourself. Identify and think about how our work is connected. And I hope that we'll stay connected. Thank you for having me. And I hope we can continue to learn. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sana. Thank you very much. Of course, no hem pogut aprofundir en cap de les coses, hem fet un tastet, però anirem avançant, perquè moltes de les idees que la Sana ens ha portat són idees que ja fa temps que ens ballen pel cap i que segurament en un moment o altre també intentarem treballar-les una mica més. Ens hem menjat molt el temps, però tenim encara uns quants minuts per convidar dues persones que pugin a l'estrada, us aniré cridant i tindrem una conversa potser més ràpida de la que hauríem volgut tenir, però segur molt interessant. Convido el Moisès Esteban, Guitart, actualment és director de l'Institut de Recerca Educativa de la Universitat de Girona, on també imparteix docència, i ha fet recerca i estada precisament amb alguns dels ideòlegs del Connected Learning als Estats Units. És expert en la relació entre cultura, identitat i educació i ha aprofundit bastant en la relació entre l'entorn i l'escola. I convidem també el Jordi Collet Saber. El Jordi Collet és professor de Sociologia de l'Educació a la Universitat de Vic, forma part del grup de recerca de la Universitat de Vic i és investigador expert en polítiques educatives locals, xarxes educatives, relacions entre família i escola, etc. De fet, fruit d'aquesta expertesa i de les seves inquietuds personals. El Jordi està al darrere d'un dels projectes que potser molts de vosaltres coneixeu, com és el projecte Enxaneta, que és una proposta per l'acompanyament escolar a l'èxit educatiu. Havíem preparat diverses preguntes, pobres, i els hi havíem fet una llista llarga de coses a les que ens agradaria que parléssim, però com que no tenim gaire temps, els hi faré una pregunta d'aquestes que és una atrapalo todo i que en 5 minuts cadascun d'ells ens digui aquelles idees que són més interessants. Ens han quedat també preguntes pendents per la Sana, però ara a l'acabar la sessió del matí, si encara estarà per aquí una estona, vull dir que si hi ha algú que té ganes de preguntar-li coses ho pot fer, però malauradament. Podem començar amb tu, Jordi, que estàs aquí a la meva vora. Moltes de les coses que la Sana ha posat sobre la taula parlaven sobre com involucrar el paper clau que tenen les famílies com a principals actors d'acompanyament als alumnes i com d'alguna manera els projectes d'aprenentatge connectat havien de permetre que les famílies també expandissin el seu capital social per poder acompanyar els seus fills i filles en les seves trajectòries educatives a dins i fora de l'escola. M'agradaria que m'expliquessis una mica a partir de la teva experiència quin és aquest paper de les famílies, com se les pot i se les hauria d'involucrar i sobretot quines polítiques s'haurien de desenvolupar perquè les famílies siguin els veritables actors o agents d'acompanyament educatiu a les trajectòries dels seus fills i filles.
5 minuts.
5 minuts.
Vinga, nano.
Molt bé, doncs merci i merci a la gent que encara esteu aquí, diguéssim. Del que explicava la Sana m'ha semblat especialment interessant el tema de les barreres, que jo crec que ens ajuda a pensar la relació amb els infants, amb els joves, amb les famílies, des d'una manera menys ingènua. Perquè a vegades en els municipis ens pensem que com que hem posat un fulletó dins de la motxilla dels nens i nenes, ja hem fet la distribució i hem fet informació. No, diguéssim, no, em sap greu, però hauríem de deixar de pensar una mica les coses en aquesta manera tan ingènua. I per tant, en tots els elements que ja anava posant, de coneixement, és una primera barrera, però hi ha una barrera d'accés, etc. I per tant, jo pensava que a vegades en els municipis, tant els petits com els més grans, a vegades fem poc l'exercici d'anar a buscar la gent. També ha sortit en algun moment les nostres dinàmiques municipals cada cop ens tanquen una mica més en els despatxos. Més burocràcia, més informes, més aplicatius. Jo crec que necessitem sortir. Necessitem sortir al carrer, necessitem veure la gent, necessitem parlar-hi en el seu hàbitat natural. Per tant, a les entrades, a les sortides de les escoles, a les reunions de l'AMPA, hem de sortir, hem d'anar-los a veure. Jo crec que això és fonamental. Per tant, hem d'anar a veure la gent per superar aquestes barreres i preguntar-li a la gent quines són aquestes barreres. És a dir, per què de cop i volta en una escola de música només tenim blanquets catalanets? Per què en determinades extraescolars? I també la Sana ha dit una cosa que em sembla molt important, és el tema de la qualitat. Jo crec que la prova del cotó és que jo hi portaria els meus fills i filles aquí o això és un recurs per pobres i per tant no. Per tant, quan intentem pensar en treball en famílies, en treball amb la comunitat, no fem coses cutres i sobretot no fem coses per pobres. Per tant, això és com per la gent nouvinguda, per classes treballadores, perquè nosaltres ja sortirem del municipi i anirem a un lloc estupendo, i per tant l'escola de música amb les flautes de plàstic és per la gent del barri, jo aniré a tocar el cello de fusta bona, diguéssim, a un altre territori. Compte amb aquestes coses. Per tant, la prova del cotó és, jo ho faria per mi, per la meva família, cosetes que es poden fer a nivell de municipi, aquesta idea de sortir, de veure la gent, d'anar-la a veure on està, de trobar-nos-la, jo crec que és molt important. Transformar el Consell Escolar Municipal en Consell Educatiu. Si voleu, podeu parlar amb la gent de Barberà, no sé si la Cristina encara està per aquí, doncs parleu amb ells, veieu com ho feu i per tant trobem-nos, aquests espais de trobada que comentava també la Sana, trobem-nos i per tant trobem-nos només la gent de les escoles, sinó la gent de les escoles, la gent de les AMPAs, la gent de la música, la gent de les llengües, la gent de les arts, la gent de l'esport, la gent del... Mapa de recursos, però el mapa de recursos l'hem de contrastar amb un altre mapa que és el dels fluxes d'infants, on són, on van, on no van. Per tant, i a més hem de fer-ho d'una manera una mica actualitzada, necessitem una mica de dades, perquè de volta si ens veiem on són i on no són, on van i on no van, on ens perdem, per exemple això ens passa molt amb tots els nanos després de l'ESO, de que de volta l'institut, amb carinyo per la gent de la formal, però a vegades l'institut si algun nano et plega al febrer o al març perquè té 16 anys i no et feia molta il·lusió que estigués a l'institut, doncs no cal dir res, no diem res fins al juny, i de cop i volta desapareix, al municipi tampoc no en sabem res perquè tampoc no el coneixem, i de cop i volta ha desaparegut. no apareix enlloc. Bueno, on són aquests nanos? On són els fluxos? Necessitem trobar-los. I necessitem posar conjuntament, diguéssim, gent diversa a pensar. I per tant aquí els educadors socials i educadores socials, gent de serveis socials, gent de joventut, gent d'escoles, etc. necessitem trobar-nos. I necessitem trobar-nos amb les famílies. Jo crec que és un element molt important. I per tant, en aquest sentit, anar-les a buscar i evidentment totes les accions que ja coneixeu per superar aquestes barreres. Per tant, hi ha barreres d'informació, però hi ha barreres d'accés, tot el tema de tarifació social ens pot ajudar molt i moltes vegades, i jo crec que és una cosa que sí que una mica l'ha dit la Sana, però jo crec que encara ho hem de fer-ho molt més, no només esperar a veure el que hi ha, sinó que jo crec que una mica en Freire diríem també hem de produir. Per tant, no només dir anem a connectar el que hi ha, però i a part d'això, igual que ja no ens agrada. Igual hi ha clubs esportius que ho fan fatal, que no sé què, doncs com produïm també les realitats que volem produir. I per tant aquí amb les famílies. I sobretot això de no fer-ho sobre elles o per elles, sinó amb elles. I per tant crec que hem de tornar a tota aquesta dimensió informal, del coneixement, del vincle, del contacte, que jo crec que a vegades la perdem una miqueta amb aquests elements d'estructuració.
Moltes gràcies. Realment 5 minuts. Moisès, a tu et voldria preguntar, de fet, una doble pregunta i que connecta les dues coses, perquè potser la Sana no ho ha abordat tant. Sí, però la Sana parlava de la connexió dels aprenentatges i com aplicaven els principis d'aquest disseny en el disseny de les intervencions, en l'àmbit comunitari, en els programes que feien. Però això mateix, l'escola, com l'escola pot dissenyar intervencions o pot dissenyar aprenentatges basats en aquests principis de la connexió i com es pot relacionar amb l'entorn i amb les famílies, com pot aprofitar els aprenentatges connectats per fer realment trajectòries de personalització, per fer aprenentatges significatius, etc.
És una pregunta fonamental, crec, i a més molt rellevant avui, que tenim l'inici de la crida d'aquesta escola, institut, el que sigui, 360, per tant, molt pertinent avui. Clar, a mi m'ha agradat aquesta metàfora de dir, ja no ens hem de justificar, em sembla que era en Rafael, ja hem passat del per què al com, i estem una mica al com, ja no cal justificar potser aquesta visió, de fet ja la compartim, sinó que anem a intentar construir-la allà, posar-la en funcionament. Jo diria en aquesta línia que no n'hi ha prou en visibilitzar la metàfora de l'ecosistema territorialitzat, que és molt important, sinó que ara hem de fer un passet més i veure quines funcions específiques tenen els diferents nòduls. Per tant, aquí l'escola és un d'aquests nòduls molt important, però potser la funció, el paper que ha de tenir dintre aquest ecosistema ha de ser diferent que el paper que pugui tenir l'Ajuntament o que el paper que pugui tenir les famílies. Jo crec que sí. I jo crec que en tot cas ara és aquest pas que hem de construir. Quines són les competències, la formació que hem de donar als mestres docents 360? Poder, a part de saber continguts o competències, o més que continguts o competències, també hem de conèixer recursos, espais per connectar amb l'aprenent. I aquestes barreres de les que em parlava el Jordi també. Estratègies, maneres de poder. O poder no, poder són unes altres, les hem de construir en qualsevol cas. Però sí que per mi una de les funcions claus de l'escola en aquesta visió, en aquest marc, en aquesta ecologia, en aquest paisatge 360, té a veure fixa't, estem parlant d'aprendre al llarg i a l'ample de la vida, compartim aquesta visió, jo crec, però on aprenem a aprendre. És a dir, on ens assentem a fer aquest procés de reflexió, que com molt bé deia la Sana Duy, ens deia que l'activitat anava acompanyat amb la reflexió. Per tant, de què jo he après, com ho he après, què puc fer per aprendre, per assolir determinat objectiu, Jo crec que totes aquestes competències, concepcions, al voltant de com jo em reconec com aprendre, l'escola pot ser una institució, un laboratori fantàstic per tal de treballar l'ofici d'aprendre, per dir-ho d'alguna manera. I de fet com ho pot fer? Fent-ho, connectant l'escola amb l'entorn. Tenim la sort de tenir grans experiències en aquest sentit, però crec que en podem fer més, i segur que començarem amb aquesta crida, al voltant de temes de personalització educativa, que de vegades és anar una mica més enllà de connectar l'escola amb l'entorn, sinó bàsicament connectem experiències d'aprenentatge també. I per tant, fem present a l'aprenent, mirem com això podem capitalitzar-ho a nivell curricular, etc. Però jo crec que, i amb això acabaria, crec que tots compartim aquesta idea de que els recursos educatius no són només pissarres, ordinadors, sinó que la comunitat és un recurs educatiu, les famílies és un recurs educatiu, els altres agents, els altres nòduls, les extraescolars és un recurs educatiu, doncs anem-les a capitalitzar en l'àmbit escolar. Deixa'm posar un exemple i acabo amb això.
Te'l volia demanar, de fet, un exemple.
Em ve en sintonia amb el que deia el Jordi, i que el que deia és molt important. Fixeu-vos que parlàvem de la xarxa. La xarxa es construeix quan hi ha confiança. Quan hi ha confiança és el vector que ens permet que dues institucions intercanviïn. I la confiança es genera, a part que en situacions informals, quan hi ha coneixement. Jo diria quan hi ha reconeixement d'aquella altra institució. L'escola pot fer moltes coses per reconèixer la família i utilitzar-la com a capital educatiu. Una d'elles, per exemple, visites. Això és un programa real que es fa a Camins, a una escola concreta, però n'hi poden haver moltes d'altres, en les quals els docents visiten les llars dels seus alumnes. I visiten amb la voluntat aquesta, crear una relació informal i identificar totes aquelles fortaleses, habilitats i destreses que aquestes famílies tenen. Amb aquesta concepció que les famílies no són deficitàries, són competents, tenen recursos educatius. Ara es tracta de com jo les puc capitalitzar educativament, com les puc vincular amb el currículum. Jo crec que estratègies d'aquest tipus, d'altres vinculades amb estratègies més de personalització de l'aprenentatge, poden ser rellevants en aquesta nova escola, podríem dir, o en aquest institut, dintre d'aquest context, aquesta mirada 360.
Perdona, perquè ho entenc una mica més. És a dir, visiten les famílies i amb el que n'extreuen, què fan? Proposar activitats d'aprenentatge?
Ho vinculen amb el currículum, estableixen vincles amb el currículum, detecten aquelles habilitats o destreses de les famílies per tal d'incorporar-les, per exemple, en matemàtiques, en geografia, amb el que sigui, doncs veuren que... I això és molt poderós, a nivell de superar, també ha sortit abans, prejudicis, estereotips. És que els pares de... O és que l'Ahmed resulta que no és que s'adormi a classe perquè és un vago, sinó que té cura del seu germà fins a altes hores de la nit, no sé què, canvia, es creen relacions d'empatia en base al coneixement aquest empíric real que deia el Jordi. O, en fi, estratègies d'aquest tipus jo crec, però que permetin crear llaços de confiança mútua i que permetin també establir aquests vincles pedagògics, educatius, que puguin millorar i contextualitzar, sobretot, que em sembla molt rellevant l'escola i allò que fa.
Molt rellevant. De fet, Alassana tenia una pregunta de les també nombroses, perquè no sortia segurament a la teva presentació, i en canvi té a veure amb el tema que abordarem aquesta tarda. Quina relació tenen les escoles, o quina relació teniu amb les escoles, quines estratègies desenvolupeu per vincular el treball que fan les entitats amb els joves i els centres educatius als quals pertanyen? Quin és el rol de les escoles en aquest univers, en aquest ecosistema d'aprenentatge a Chicago?
Thank you. This is something that I think just the question of the trust and the key, I think, is really helpful to understand. Trust is essential in all of this work, in all of the work that you are doing. Do you have trust among one another? And the families, especially moving from a deficit model to an asset-based, I think is really important. In Chicago, we have, prior to our work, there was kind of a policy that was implemented around service learning. So, this idea of lifelong learning is connected to civic engagement and, kind of this service and duty to our country and to our cities. So one way that we've connected the in-school and out-of-school time space is around service learning. So service learning happens in the in-school space, but they partner. A teacher can partner with a community-based organization. So it might be a science teacher that is doing work around biology. How can you take concepts of biology and connect them with a community-based organization? So a community-based organization might be working on water issues or environmental issues. These are things that are connected back to the sciences, and so they work on project-based learning opportunities that then young people get credit for service learning opportunities that will lead them. They have to have a certain number of hours before they graduate high school, which is the equivalent here.
Would you say, és aquesta l'estratègia principal de relació entre l'escola i la comunitat? Ai. A banda de l'aprenentatge servei, com a estratègia, que aquí a Catalunya també s'ha adoptat recentment per tots els centres educatius de secundària, més enllà de l'aprenentatge servei, hi ha altres estratègies o prometedores, diguem-ne, que d'alguna manera modifiquen la manera com l'escola es relaciona amb l'entorn?
Yeah, I think that we often ask, so the schools, and I think this is similar to Barcelona as well, we ask, the schools are looking for opportunities because they are resource constrained. So they go to the community-based organization and say, what can you do for me? But I think that what this panel is saying and what the work is that it needs to be a mutually beneficial relationship for the school and for the organizations, for the young person and the parents. So this is the work that we try to do, is think about where are those synergies, where are those intersections.
Okay. Em sap molt greu, però realment hem de plegar ara i per tant hem de deixar el debat en aquest moment i se'ns ha fet més curt del que hauríem volgut i és una llàstima. Dono la paraula al Carles, em sembla que el Carles vols dir unes paraules abans de plegar. Moltes gràcies a tots tres i continuem la conversa.
Moltes gràcies, Sana, Moisès, Jordi i Mònica. No, era simplement... Tanquem el matí. Crec que ha sigut molt ric, molt divers. Hem combinat aquesta lògica local i ara hem acabat amb aquesta visió global. Demanem disculpes perquè no hem sabut gestionar el temps com haguéssim volgut, però jo entenc que aquí s'han obert moltes finestres i, evidentment, això estarà obert a la web d'Educació 360 i tindreu accés, etc. Abans us comentava de poder-nos fer una foto de família final, diguem. Ara seria un moment, si sembla bé, i en tot cas dir-vos sobretot que reprenem la jornada a les 5:30 en la presentació de la crida als centres educatius. Alguns de vosaltres dels que esteu aquí seguireu a la tarda, d'altres ho hem fet precisament per aquest horari perquè mestres i professorat pugui venir directament al sortir de les classes, doncs precisament a poder participar a la convocatòria de crida. Us volia dir també... Sí, un segon. Una petita recomanació cultural educativa. Els que us quedeu a la tarda, a part de dinar i agafar energies, fins a les 5:30 segur que teniu un bon espai. No us perdeu l'exposició de l'Stanley Kubrick, que hi ha al CCCB aquí, perquè ho agraireu. Dit això, moltíssimes gràcies a tots per la participació i ara ens indiquen què hem de fer amb això de la fotografia, com funciona?